Hello everyone and welcome back to Start Right. In the last video of the season 2 of the reactJS series, I talked about app.write.io and how you can set up your own authentication system in just 15 minutes. If you have not checked that video out, please do check that video out and do let me know if you like it, so I'll create more videos using app.write platform. In this video, I'll talk about how you can have protected or private components in your applications. Generally, that involves login, where you want to make some components accessible to only the users who have logged into your application. So we'll see how you can do that, and we will also take one step further where we will have role-based authorization. Yes, so we will also talk about how you can make different components accessible or inaccessible to different users with different roles. Hence a lot of interesting stuff that we will cover in this video. So let's get started. As you can see on the screen, I have a basic setup, and I think if you have followed my reactJS series earlier, this user interface should look familiar. I have a very simple setup where I have a basic setup which is a little distributed. So all the routes that I have, I am using reactRouter DOM. I've used createBrowserRouter to specify all the routes because that is what the latest version of reactRouter DOM suggests. And also reactRouter DOM encourages all the users to start using createBrowserRouter, right? So we have object-oriented style of routing where we have this setup, and in the app.js we are using router provider to specify the router. Then in the root.js, so what routes we have over here, we have one root element which has all the components, which is the logo, and this section the complete navigation, and then in this section we are loading up home, which is this part, and then there is products. In products we have proper filtering setup, so there is a separate video for this filtering also, how you can use params in a reactJS application. I've talked about that, so do check that video out. Then we have profile and edit profile. Also in the root.js we are using outlet, and we are also supplying in context, and in the child components we are using use outlet context. So there's another video for use outlet context as well, where I've mentioned how you can use context along with reactRouter DOM using the use outlet context. It makes it super easy. You don't have to use the core context provider of React. If you're using reactRouter DOM, you can make it very simple just by supplying in the context using the outlet component over here, like I've done over here, and then using the use outlet context hook wherever you want to access the context. Okay, so this is the basic setup. In the products.js, I've done a couple of more things, like the basic filtering is there, and I've also used I've created a dummy API on Amazon using Lambda and API gateway to supply in some default data, because I wanted to have some data over here, not images but yeah, simple data. So if you'll see, there is some data also that is getting loaded over here. It's a basic data. On the home section you don't see anything. Then there is this username. This is something that I'm setting by default. In the root.js, what I'm having over here is I'm having a state variable user in which I'm setting a value by default, right? So this is the value that I'm setting by default, and I'm also supplying in the user and set user the state variable and the setter function in the context, so that profile and edit profile can get access to this. So on profile you see the username over here because it is being supplied by context, and in profile we are accessing that using use outlet context over here. And same in edit profile, if you want to update the username you can do so. Got updated. If I go to profile, you see the updated name. Why? Because in edit profile also I'm getting access to the context values, user and set user setter function using use outlet context, and I'm updating it. So basic setup, right? After this long introduction of the basic setup, let's come to what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to make a profile and edit profile inaccessible to the users who are not logged in. But by default right now what we have is we are setting the user as default state, and we are setting it in the root.js. We have set username object in the user. So what we will do is we'll have a button over here, login and logout, which will set and unset this to the state. So that will sort of act as the login and logout mechanism for us. Okay, so we'll have that, and profile and edit profile will not be accessible directly if the user is not logged in or if this user state variable is not set. Then once this is done, then we will see how we can add roles to this particular object and set up role-based authorization as well. So the first thing that I will do is I will just remove this object from state, and I will just add null over here. This will break things, which is fine. Why? Because we are using user.username over here. So let's make this conditional, that if the user is set, then only we see this name, otherwise we don't see. So this is disappeared now. Now what we want to have is we want to have a login button over here, which when clicked sets this user, and a logout button somewhere which when clicked unsets this particular user. So let's first create some functions over here. Login user, what we want to do is we want to just simply set the user, and the user would be, let's say users, let's say some ID is there, one user name is there, Abhishek. Okay, so this is what we want to set. And similarly for logout, what we want to do is we want to unset this particular thing. Okay, so what we will do is set user and we will say null. So we have two methods ready for login and logout. Now in root, in the current setup, and this is something that you should also follow, I don't have anything apart from the navigation. This is the section that is loaded by different component. So either I can have the login button over here or somewhere over here. I don't want to do that. I just want to keep this login part over here in the root.js, and in the home section I want to have the login button. Now in order to have the login button in the home section, I will have to supply this login user function to the home, right? So that I can use the login user method when the login button is clicked. So in the context that I'm supplying to all the other child components, I will have to add this login user function also. Okay, so this is added. So let's head to home.js. Home.js, here we have a simple message, welcome to site my shop. Right over here, what I want to have is I want to have a button on click of which I will call some function and add some class name. I will do this later, button, and this is login. Now this login will obviously use the function that I just added to the context, which is login user. So I will have to get access to the context, and that I can do like this using the use outlet context hook available in React Router DOM. Once I have the context, I can use it to get access to the login user function. Okay, and in the class I can provide btn and ping. Yep, so this looks fine. Now if this login is clicked, this is working fine. Wow, when I clicked on login, this appeared because the username was set, and we had a condition over here, if the user is set, then we show this link to the profile. Okay, so this is done. Now also what I want to do is when the login is done, when the username is set, I don't want to show this particular button, rather I want to show some logout button. Now where do we put the logout button? We don't have enough space over here. I don't want to get into the creating a drop down over here. So let's create a logout button over here at the bottom. Okay, so in the root.js, after this outlet, what I can do is I can have this. So this will give me a margin, and I will have a button over here for logout, and let me add some simple class name to this. I have a button. Okay, so these are some classes that I've already created. Yeah, so we got this logout button. Now what we have to do is we want to show this logout button when the user is set, and the opposite for login. We want to hide the login button when the user is set, right? So these should be complementing each other, that login is shown, and then when you log in, this and logout appears, and when you log out, this username and this logout hides and login appears, right? So how do we do that? Over here, what I want is if the user is set, then I want to show this button, right? So this is simple. If the user is set, then I want to show the logout button. So this is done. And on the other hand, for login, what I want to do is I want to hide this when the user is set. So when not of user, oops, user is not defined. Okay, so we will get user by using context object, right? So this works. So in the context, we are getting access to user, set user, and the login user method. So like we are accessing it over here. So what we have done up until now is in the home section, I've added a login button like this, basic login button, on click of which I am triggering the login user function, which I've defined in root, and I'm supplying it to through the context. Also, one thing we missed out is that on click of this logout button, what we want to do is we want to trigger the logout function. Okay, so this is also done. We have a logout button. We have set up a condition over here whether to show this profile name or not, and we have login and logout user method set. And over here we have set in the home whether to show the login button or not show. Let's see, if I log out, login button is appearing. If I'm using login, then the login button is disappearing and this is appearing. If I click on this, profile is opening, which I don't want to be opened up if the user is not logged in. In this case, I want to open a profile, but when the user is logged out, cannot read properties of null username. Where are we accessing username? On profile. Okay. So in case of logout, what's happening is profile page is opening up, and in profile page, I'm trying to access username. Okay, anyway, so let's just ignore this error. What we want to do now is get into the main actual stuff. We want to protect this profile page if the user is not set. So how do we do that? Now, in this context, we are getting access to this user. So it's very easy. What I would do over here is I check if the user is available in the context. If not, I navigate the user to the home page, right? That's what I want to do, and I can easily use the navigate component to navigate to the home page that's available in reactRouter DOM. So what will I do is I will check over here if context.user, if not context.user, then I navigate to home and I use the replace property, because that ways I can also manage the history. Okay. So now what happened is some error occurred, which is fine, but I'm navigating from over here. Okay, so I'll have to return it, sorry. And we are coming to home page. Now if I try to access profile and we are not logged in yet, if I try to access profile, we will be returned back to the home page. So the basic redirection is set, the basic protection is set, right? But this is not a very good way, because if I have to use this, so this is a valid code if you want to protect any component from unauthenticated access. But if you have to, let's say you have 10 pages or 50 pages, and if you have to use this on all the pages, it is not a very good way. So what we will do is we will rather create a protected route component and enclose this particular component or any other component that we want to protect in that component as a children component, and that component will be used in routing to sort of, encapsulate other components. Whatever component we want to protect, we will sort of make that component as a children of that particular component. So what I mean to say is, let's just comment this out and let's create a new, let's say, folder over here, utils. Inside this utils, let's create a file protected route.js, and it will be a component. So this is the component, and in this what we will do is, first of all, we will access the context, because from context we get the information whether the user is available or not, or set or not. So we will use the context, and if not context.user, the same condition that we were having over there, what we will do is we will simply return to the home page like we were doing earlier. Okay, so this is what we will do. The same thing that we were having on the profile page, we have moved it to a separate component, and we will make some changes to the basic routing mechanism, and we will use this as a parent to this profile, so that first this is loaded and we will supply it our main children component, and from here we will return the children, so that if everything is fine, if we don't have to redirect, if the user is set, then we return the children component, which is the profile or edit profile. So let's make changes to the routing and see how we can use this. So in the router.js, what I will do is, for this profile, I will have a protected route like this. Let's see if this is working for us. This basic application is getting loaded. Let me just change the URL to profile 404, nothing error. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is also working for us. Profile, if you're going to profile, you are still getting this. And if I log in and then I go to profile, profile is opening up. So this is working fine for us. If I log out, now if I try to go to profile, I'm still getting back to the home page. So this is working for us. Now what we can do is we can have the same thing set for edit profile as well. And it would be easy, right? So all we have to do is do this, and this protected route will protect edit profile also. So if I try to open up, let's say, edit profile, I still get back to the home page. And if I'm logged in, then I go to edit profile, I'm able to access it. I log out, I go back to edit profile, can't open it. No, can't open it. So everything is working fine. But is there an even better way of doing it? Yes. Well, how's that? So in reactRouter DOM 6.x version, a lot of things have been changed and a lot of standard practices have been introduced. And that's where, this sort of design is a little discouraged. On contrary, what you can do is you can have a route for protected component and have profile and edit profile as a children of protected route. And when you make those changes, then this will not work. Instead of this returning the component directly, you will have to return an outlet, because this will act as a parent component in which the children will be loaded. So you will have to have an outlet over here, and you don't even have to pass this children component as a prop to protected route. So it's better. What I'm trying to say is, let me just make those changes. So what I want to do over here is, instead of doing this, let's just get back to simple profile and edit profile. Pick this up, have a section over here which says element protected route. Okay, and with this I will have some children, and these will be the children's. So this is what I meant. But now in this case, let's check if things are working. You will see you didn't have the profile component loaded. Why? Because like I said, if you go with this style, because you're specifying this children like this, over here you don't have to require this, because there is the children style, the parent children, the nested style is not there. So instead what we will have to do is we will return the outlet from here. And now you can see, oops, profile is getting error. Okay, so we'll have to supply in the context as well. So once we receive the context in protected route, we supply it forward to the other children components of protected route, which is profile and edit profile, and it should be working now. It is working perfectly fine. And what changes we did was, we are using a more distributed approach, which is a very good approach. We have proper setup for createBrowserRouter. We have a protected route setup. We have children's for protected route setup in object style, where we use the children key and pass on an array of children paths. In the protected route, what we are doing is we are using outlet, and we are supplying in the context to the children as well. And we don't need any props like we used to have in case of nested style. Okay. So this is all set, and the basic protection of the component is set. When the user is logged in, then only the user can access profile and edit profile. If the user is not logged in, they cannot access profile and edit profile. So this is something which you require whenever you are creating an application using reactJS, where you have an authentication system and login, so you can protect all the components like this. Now let's see how we can upgrade this to have a role-based authorization. So what we will do is, let's say there's a basic user role that is required for accessing profile and edit profile, and there is an admin panel for which you require an admin role, right? So what we will do is, we will create a simple admin page, simple admin panel. We will not do much in this one. Okay. And in root.js, what I want to do over here is, in root, in this particular object of user, I want to add a role, which will be an array, and it will have user and admin roles. So right now let's start with the basic user role. So it has one rule. It can have an array of roles that this user have, maybe user, analyst, admin, etc. Right? So right now it has just user role, and user role is required for accessing profile and edit profile. And for admin, to access admin, you need admin role. Okay. So with this user role, you won't be able to access admin panel. So let's quickly add the admin component to the routing. So in this case, because there is rule based authorization, so what we will have to do is, we'll have to supply in a role over here in the protected route with the value of role that is required to access these children. So we will have to have a separate setup for the admin role, right? So over here, what I will have is, I will have admin, and in this I will have, okay, /admin will get me to admin. So this is what I'm doing is, I'm sending in a prop to protected route with the role that, okay, role user is required to access these components, and role admin is required to access these components. Okay, so in protected route, I'll have to make some changes. I'll have to expect a role in here. And what this role will do, we will check this in the condition and we will make some changes over here. What will those changes be? I will see if the user is set, or so when do we navigate to home? If the user is not set or if the role is not correct. So how do we check for role? We check that, okay, context dot user dot role dot includes the role that we are getting as a prop. Alrighty. And what if the role is not set? So we can make this optional as well. This is fine, I think, for better error handling. Yep. So this is done. Let's see if we are able to access admin panel 404, nothing here. Why 404 nothing here? We are having admin in router.js, and okay. So we require admin, yeah. So if I try to access admin, getting to home, let's log in. This is fine, edit profile is working. Now if I want to go to admin, I'm getting back to login. Okay, so the application is getting refreshed, the user object is getting destroyed. I will have to have some way to get to, I need a URL over here with link. So what we can do is we can simply have a button for admin over here. Let's say, let's quickly have a button to take us to the admin panel. If I click on this, yes, we are not getting to the admin panel. Why? When the user clicks on this admin, we are not able to get to the admin panel because the permission is not set. But let's see, if I update the permission to admin, then are we able to go to, this is the admin access that we are providing. If you open admin, okay, we are still not able to get to the admin panel. Why is that? Let's log out. This should not work. Login. Okay, yeah, it must have not got refreshed. Now I am getting to admin panel. If I go to profile, still able to go to profile, admin, able to go to admin, log out, logged out. When the user is logged out, can't go to admin. If in case the user doesn't have the role of admin, then if you log in, try to go to admin, you cannot go to admin, right? So we have successfully set up a basic authentication and yeah, role-based authorization as well. How we have had this protected route sort of, enclosing our protected routes inside of it. We have used outlet like this, supplied in context to the children, have the condition over here, used navigate to navigate to the home page. And in case of routing, all the magic happened. We used the main protected element like this and everything else was children. For authorization, role was supplied in as a prop, like this user role is required to access these component and admin role is required to access these component, etc. So that's about it. That's how you can create protected or private components in your application wherever you have login system, authentication system, or authorization, maybe, to give access to the user to access admin panel or their own profile or edit profiles, etc. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post such amazing videos about reactJS. And more videos are on the way. I will cover a lot of things about React Router DOM, the new introduced features. Then we will also look into other services like AppWrite. I will be making more projects based on AppWrite. So this season 2 is gonna be amazing, where we dive deep into React.js and create good application and good stuff which actually matters. So do subscribe, do like, do share this video, do comment if you like this and you want me to create more such videos. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you in the next one.